Welcome, everybody. Today we're going over the topic of love. What is it? Where does it come from? And do we deserve it? Hit it. Today we're going over a topic that I think blows some minds, to be honest, because it just hit me one day that love is an interesting development. Developing love for someone, knowing what love is, what do we call love, where does it come from? And a lot of this just kind of struck me, just like, I have no fucking idea. I have no idea, to be honest. So I tried to develop myself in the topic of love and in the different ways that, for example, we can be people, how we are people. And it's basically described as the four bodies of existence. So you have physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body, right? So physical body, I'm going to go by the definition, but it's pretty obvious what those are. But I'm going to give you the specifics of it from a website I got called www.soulmerging.com. It'll be in the description. And you can read it all yourself. So I took the definitions of this so the example is your physical body. Your physical body, obviously, it says it's the vessel that your spirituality, your emotions, and the creativity flow through. The physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies are literal vibrational fields of energy that overlap and affect each other in the physical body. So that's a really good definition of basically doing this. Yep. Okay. I'm physical, right? Now, the emotional body. Your emotional body is the sum total of every emotional experience that you have ever had, and also your general concerns, pleasures, and desires. Now, your mental body, which is pretty simple, it's the establishment of knowing that you exist, that you are existing, right? That's basically what that is. It's just your mental capacity to know that you exist, right? And then you have your spiritual body, which it says here is the secret of the four bodies of existence. It's when the physical, the mental, and the emotional bodies reach a state of harmony and balance. The higher vibration of our spiritual body is activated, achieving a higher value and existence of ourselves. So that's a hard definition to describe, but basically it's the culmination of you together. This is what I'm going to take from it. It's the culmination of you together, rising in every aspect of the physical, mental, and emotional to form the unique person that is you, right? So the first one we're going to go into is the spiritual love. So I tried to break this down to help me understand, help to explain to you guys kind of this topic, right? So we can agree, well, we don't even have to agree, but the statistics tell you that 75% of the United States are Christians, right? So the Christian understanding comes from God loving us, right? Creating us, loving us through all of our gunk, our sin, all of that, which leads to the agape love, which is the Greek word that is defined as the highest form of love and the love of God for man and man for God, right? That's the word that means the highest amount of love, right? That's how, on a spiritual level, from a Christian like myself, would describe love. Obviously, as a Christian myself, it's easy to identify with what that feels like. But again, even when I hear it, whether it's in church or from someone else, or we go through it together, whether religiously, it's still hard, at least for me, to fully develop even that sense of love. It just makes it even farther. It just puts it farther away. Because if you can take the spiritual love from this and you can go, okay, well, if we take the agape love as the example, right, and then we compare, that's how we understand what love is. We can barely understand the basic level of love. How the hell are we supposed to identify agape love and identify from that? So even from the spiritual part, I'm still confused, and people should be on what love actually is identified as, right? Now, So that's kind of spiritual. Some people want facts. So here we go. We're gonna go with the physical love. We're gonna establish the love and the brain, basically. And this is from thebustle.com. Okay, so this sensation of love occurs in your limbic system, which is where your emotions are controlled, as well as things like sex drive and things like that. And then you have the the hypothalamus, which is, they basically call it the CEO of the body, right? Kind of controls a whole lot of stuff. And then we'll get into it in deeper as well. And then you have the endocrine system, which is made up of all the hormones all the releasing glands that release your hormones. Those are the three places where love will ping and take place, right? Physically in your body, that we can track with science. So, I don't want to butcher it, so a lot of this you'll see me reading, okay? So obviously if you're on the podcast, you're going to hear me, but on YouTube you're going to see me reading, because I don't want to fuck this up, basically, and mess this up. So it goes like this. Your body's nervous system sends sensory stimuli to the limbic system, okay? Those send the signals to the hypothalamus, which is a small section of the brain that controls your autonomic nervous system. So the unconscious process of breathing, blood circulation, digestion, things like that, right? So all of the feelings that stem from the feeling of love come from that part, the hypothalamus, which uses the autonomic nervous system to translate emotion into physical relations. So that's where it determines based on the impulses that it gets, the signals it gets, into the physical reaction of love that you experience, right? And then the hypothalamus also affects the skeletal muscle system, which allows you to express those emotions that you feel physically on your face, in your body, and what you feel. And then the endocrine system is where the hormone comes in, which obviously there's a bunch of hormones that make you feel, that release when you're in love, or, maybe when you're feeling a little sexy, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of stuff that happens on that side. But that, for the basis part, that's physical. That's the physical part right there. Love and the scientific parts of your brain that do that. Now, the mental love, which is the hard part, because it's easy to find in the body what it does, what it can do, how it works in the brain when it does it, right? And then obviously the spiritual aspect of it comes from, a higher understanding, whatever your spirituality is. For me, it was Christian, so I could easily identify with that, what I could say love is from the Christian understanding, right? But when it comes to trying to take those two and understand it mentally, the example I put down here is, so computers can mimic a human brain. Not as complex as a human brain, because there's not as many, but you can mimic the signals and the synapses in the computer just like you can in your brain. Obviously, it's not to the scale where you could do anything with it, but the connections are there, right? And so, but that doesn't mean that it's the same as a human brain, right? A computer and a human brain are different. Even the highest computer we think of as a quantum computer is still not even close to a human brain, and it never will be, right? Because you have to know something to be able to recreate it, for example. So I feel like love is the same thing, right? We can try our best to understand it, how it affects us physically, and kind of from a spiritual aspect where it comes from, but how can we determine, how can we justify, how can we figure out something that we don't ourselves fully understand? Does that make sense? And so the mental love was hard for me to kind of power through. But I mean, I guess mentally you could say that if you take all this and you can factor in your own hypothesis, your own analysis, then I guess mentally you do understand it. So you can do it that way as well. But needless to say, we'll cover that mental love, right? And then you have something. So now we're going to try and develop it emotionally. So we have how it physically affects us, and you could take this whole section and just go, well, the emotions are controlled by the hormones released in your endocrine system, which is fine. That's a perfectly good answer. But personally, this led me into an avenue that I'd never thought to ask myself until now, which is what makes an individual like myself, or you watching, or you listening, what makes you ready for love? You know, what if we can't comprehend something like love that makes us, then what makes us worthy of it? You know, what do we know about it? We don't know a whole lot about it, really. We're just assuming that by the way our body physically reacts and how we can track things physically, that we just say, hey, we'll call that love. You know, that's love. So what gives me the authority in my life to determine if I'm in love with someone, if we technically can't define it? So from my perspective, I've loved a ton of people. I love my family. I love my son especially. And I've loved other individuals. I've loved other of the opposite sex. I've loved people and in completely different ways. But from my perspective, like finding a wife for myself it became exponentially harder when I hit the conclusion of what makes me ready to judge love or to be loved or have the understanding of love. For example, my son, his mom, when I was in high school, everyone knows their first love, right? Their 16-year-old sweetheart, right? That was her, right? I know exactly what that love feels like, and I can't re-mimic it, but I know what that feels like, that first love you have, right? And then from that sprouted a long relationship, and then from that sprouted my son, obviously, and then that kind of, it didn't necessarily fade. I thought that's what love was when I was 16, and that's what it was going to be forever. It was going to drive just like every other 16-year-old kid. That's what it is, and you're going to run with it, right? But it's not. That's not. It changes. It with age, it gets different, right? And then after that, you know, you feel like your whole life's apart. Your whole life falls apart to pieces, and then you don't know what's going on. You had so much love for this person, and now it fell apart. You know, you split up. Ours wasn't the best of circumstances, so to speak, but with time now, you know, 5 years later, now we're, you know, it's like a business agreement, but I still remember what that love was, where it came from, and, you know, what basically essentially came from that, which is Madden, which is amazing. But then love changed. Love changes, right? And then from there, as I started to get older, then I met a girl who I thought I was going to have settle down, and this is what the mature love felt like, you know, a year ago. And I was like, so this is what the mature love feels like. It's different. It's, you know, you have to factor in things that you didn't have to factor in before when you're 16, such as responsibility, you know, paying bills and doing all the adult things that make life harder for you. And then they also interfere with that 16-year-old romance. So it merges into a fully developed, more mature sense of love. And then from that, I don't know where it goes. From that, then you get to be my age right now, and you question, you know, the depth of what love is. How does it change? When will it stop changing? When do you know you're in love? And that's the big question there, is it's not that I can't tell you what love is, because I can give you a generalized answer of what love is, but I guess the main question is, when does it stop developing? When does it reach its maximum effect? Does it always change? Is it ever in motion? Is it always in motion? And I can't, that's what I was trying to get at, that I can't fully myself establish any of those emotions rationally in my brain without thinking, is this love? Will it change into a different level that I will then now call love, right? So this harder topic than I thought. Now it's getting tougher, because now my train of thought can't go the other direction, because I'm thinking like, oh shoot, now we got my brain spinning. But the example, at least for those two, was that those two people in my life were two of the deepest loves that I've ever had and still have for both of them. And I can still feel the exact same way about them. But they're in completely separate categories. And I can see that and I can feel that and establish that in my brain. And so it's just, is there going to be more categories? Or when you get to the person you meet, will that person fit that category, and then the ever-developing love category that will develop from that? Or is, as an adult now at 23, after factoring in the responsibility of being an adult, that love now has its full effect? So, and again, these questions I have no answer for. These questions you probably have no answer for either, now that I'm asking them. But the point of this podcast and the point of this video was to at least make you aware, and hopefully if someone's in a predicament or in a relationship that they don't fully understand, maybe they have some of these similar questions that, and they hear it, that maybe this is like a reaching out hand, and that someone's not alone. Like, you're not alone, basically. That this happens to people, and ideas change, people change, love changes, and that you don't have to have the answer, and you don't have to know the answer. We're people. We're humans. I mean, there's nothing more to really say after that, because that's, at the end of the day, that's exactly what we are. And, we can barely fathom, the depths of space and how we even exist here on Earth, let alone taking something that we think we know, like love and the physical representation of love, and trying to understand that. I feel like as a species, as human beings, that we're just destined to continue to have these questions, yet never receive any of the answers. And I guess it would keep me pushing forward. It would keep me motivated to keep trying to find out the answers. Because again, once you take away something like determination away from a human being, then, I mean, it's very quickly you can lose the reason to live. Not to sugarcoat it, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of things about us and about the world and about the universe that we have no idea about, and we probably never will have. And maybe just coming to terms with that is part of developing as an adult and becoming who we're always destined to become, which, in my opinion, again from a Christian perspective, not knocking or judging or throwing any other out, but to be one with God at the end. And for me, I have all these questions, but I totally understand if we never get the answer. We will at the end. That's completely my confidence. But again, like I said, just to kind of round off all of this, so based on the 4 bodies of existence: physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional, I don't think we'll ever get it. I think the only moment we'll know is at the end of life, when all the deepest questions we have are answered. And honestly, like I said, I'm okay with that. You should be okay with that, and understand that, life doesn't stop here. Life doesn't end here. It's full of surprises, it's full of ups and downs, it's full of low points, and it's full of high points. And if you can establish in your life something as high and regarded as love, even if it's just the basic idea of the physical love that we've talked about, then I think you're ahead of the game in most ways of life. That you are advanced, you are smart, you are way above the curve when it comes to something like this. And if you found that person and you've developed love, you feel love for that person, and you know that it's deeper than maybe what I've explained today, then tell me. Put it in the comment, put it on share this and see what information we get. The point of this is to establish questions and kind of develop each other, not just in ways that, I could do to someone standing next to me, but kind of reach out farther than any other person has ever thought to reach out. And to me, just to have the honor of doing this, even rationalizing some of the questions in my own head, just to put it into the microphone or put it onto the internet or put it on a piece of paper, to type through it, is more than I could ever ask for. So if one person listens, if a million listens, if nobody listens, at the minimum, what I get from this is maybe, I guess in a way, talking to myself, but not seeming as crazy as I would if I was just yelling and talking to myself in the car. But instead, I'm talking into the microphone. Either way, at the end of the day, we're all people. We don't know what's going on, but living life is part of the journey of finding out. So live it to the best you possibly can. And if you find love, no one's more happy for you than me. So thank you for listening to this episode of the BHE podcast. I appreciate every single one of you. And welcome to the human race. Keep living it the way we're supposed to, or that we're not supposed to. Again, that's completely up to you. But it's my pleasure to maybe entice some of these questions. So you enjoy the rest of your morning and live life. If you like this video, comment, tell me about your thoughts, or anything you want me to add, or anything you want me to cover as well. If you think I have an input, type it. Tell me if you want. If you have an input, say it. Again, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.